My name is Dr. Rick Seguil.
And action. Hey, Jay had a... This is Kirk again. And action. Hey everyone, it's Dr. Rick. So Mike had a question about breaking his sleep pattern with herbal remedies. Now I check out the video I did before for resetting sleep, and it might help you decide on how to at least get the pattern down. But I'll talk about how herbal might be able to jumpstart your sleep cycle back into normal again. But if this is the first time you're finding me, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and the alert button to find out when I do new videos. So, herbally. So, obviously, I'm talking about medical cannabis, medical marijuana, and I think there are great uses for it now. Now, you're going to have to get over the fact that it's still, there is some stigma with it as far as, or shame with it, especially if you're in the baby boomer age, because it was always considered illegal and only the potheads were the ones who could supply people to try it. And once you tried it, if you kept on hanging out with those heads, it was a bad crowd. But now, listen, I'm going to try to do this because I want you guys to be good with being knowledgeable before going into a dispensary. I just went to Colorado for a great hike, and after coming down from 13,000 feet the first time and 14,000 feet the second time, I was hurting. In fact, I'm still hurting now. Thank God it's a little better. I suffered from altitude sickness. So I stopped into a dispensary because I'm familiar with the dispensaries in Illinois. Those dispensaries are a little bit different. They're recreational. And at least in Illinois, which is going to be recreational by January 1st, the medical marijuana you get as a patient, if you have a medical marijuana card, is much more robust as far as options than what you get if you're just going for recreational. In fact, a lot of townships like St. Charles and Naperville are blocking the selling or the pop-up stores as far as recreational cannabis. So it's going to be a problem. If you have a medical card, you can use it, but even though the state approved it, certain townships are allowed to block any new stores of recreational popping up. So it's going to be a war of sorts. I think it's very useful medicinally. Recreationally, I think it's fair game to be on it, but just like alcohol, as long as you're old enough and you can get it, but if you are self-medicating to take care of a abusive relationship, a hidden anxiety issue, a problem with depression, PTSD, you're going to essentially overdose on alcohol. Same thing can be, and that can lead to drunk driving, that can lead to death, alcoholic intoxication, that can lead to bad decision making or repercussions as far as uncontrolled behavior or change in behavior when on alcohol. Same thing can happen with medical marijuana, or recreational marijuana I should say. Because recreational marijuana, if you're trying to self-medicate because you have a really active medical disease, it's a good band-aid. It'll help take care of the symptoms, but if you don't address the disease root, you will need more and more as the disease progresses. So I have my reservations on recreational, I think to a certain degree, but I can't pick and choose that, and I just have to be careful with some of my patients. So when some of my patients are coming and saying, I want a medical card, and they qualify for it nowadays, I'll ask them, how often are you doing it? I'm taking a hit every hour. That's a little bit much. And if the disease is that bad, say anxiety, or I need to relax, so I need it every hour, you really have to, I mean, that's going to drive up high blood pressure. It's going to cause problems with overexertion of cortisol. Your testosterone's going to go down, or your estrogen's going to go down. You're going to have a sleep disturbance. There's a lot of uncontrolled things there. So at least if you're going to use it recreationally, get into your doctor and get a checkup. Now, if you don't have insurance, well, I'm not going to get into it. Anyway, so the bottom line is that if you're going to go into a dispensary and you're going to try to say, hey, I got a sleep issue, what can I get? Well, if you go into a candy store as a kid and you say, I'm hungry for candy, give me what you got, and you show them $100, you're going to get $100 of product. So same thing with the dispensaries. I don't mean to belittle the dispensaries, but if you don't have a clue of what you're wanting and you just say, just help me with this, this, and this, you're going to get this, this, and this as far as medicine. And I'm very exact. In fact, I like to use it as an experiment. So on top of a healthy lifestyle, a proper sleep, good exercise, calming practice, and a pretty decent nutrition practice, I think if you have leftover symptoms like back pain. I saw a guy today in his 70s. He's shrunk and he's back and kyphotic, and he looked like ankylosing spondylitis, which is a disease process. And his pain doctor and his orthopedic guy they're wanting to do a whole bunch of procedures. I'm thinking, whoa, has anybody checked you for rheumatoid arthritis or ankylosing spondylitis or essentially physical therapy? And he said no. But he was coming in to see me for medical cannabis, and I did that part, and I guided him on what to buy, but he needs to take care of the root cause. So again, I digress. But he's going to go to the dispensary, at least with a little bit of knowledge, by watching my videos, reading on leafly.com. I think they're a great website. They can learn about the basics. And then checking out the menu before you're going shopping. If you're going to a car dealership and you're going in like a deer in the headlights, I want a new car, you're going to get sold everything that you don't need. So here we go. I'm going to hold these up as we go. So, okay, so bottom line is the flower, which is good, it's cheapest, but you have to smoke it, and I think there is a little bit of a risk when you inhale tar, unless you have a volcano, and that will just vaporize all carcinogens, I believe, and give you the product at the end. So you can dial in the temperature, but those volcanoes are metal volcanoes. They come from Germany, real steel. They look like a sterilizer, if you ask me, or a tube spin down in the lab. But they get to a certain temperature. You put this big plastic bag on, and you inhale from the bag when the thing is all burnt. But I still think there's a tar you have to worry about if you smoke a joint or smoke a bowl. So you have to be careful in the long run. It's not like, you can't equate it to cigarette smoking, but I still think if you can avoid leaf smoking, you'd be better off. And New York has not allowed flower to be sold. They sell everything else in the medical marijuana dispensaries, but not flower. And they have a really good color coding system, which I follow. I'll put the link down below for previous. So if you're going to go into the dispensary, you should know a couple things. Number one, if we're going to just relate this, instead of saying, I want something for sleep, if you have hot flashes and that's all you have, that's interrupting sleep, I would go with Mary Medicinals. This Muscle Freeze is a little bit of CBD, but it also has menthol in it, so it's cooling. So if you put this on your body, I made the mistake in Colorado, putting with my first excursion. I bought some at a dispensary over there as recreational. I put it all over after I took a shower. I was freezing, and it wasn't good freezing. I was sitting in front of the fire with a couple of jackets on. I was still freezing from the inside, bone cold. That wasn't fun. I thought it would help my aches and pains from doing a 1,100 foot hike. But this is nice because just the right spots, here, back of the neck, maybe under the arms, low back, feet. It'll give you a cooling sensation for a couple hours, and that might help you if you have a hot flash that's waking you up at night. Obviously, if you have a hot flash, you might want to do progesterone cream. That'd be great if they mix progesterone and medical cannabis together. And I have a dispensary called Wholesome Health Pharmacy. We're going to try to do that together. But this is nice. This is the most basic. Topical. You just pump out and put it on your hands, and as a cream, you put it on the spots. So this is the most basic, and it has just a CBD in it. Then we go to using stuff orally, and I got a couple things here. So I've collected stuff from patients just dropping off stuff and not liking their product or the side effects. This is a syrup. You put it in carbonated water, I think a shot or 2 shots, and it gives you a little THC in the water. So you dilute it in the water. It gives you a little bit of a oral hit in a couple hours. So it's a little bit slow. When you do the oral stuff, it's a little bit slower. So you have to take that into account, because if you're doing this right before you sleep and you drink carbonated water, that's going to go somewhere. You're going to have to pee it off. So this is probably not a great suggestion. I just wanted to show you what a syrup looks like. These two this is a single shot, something or other. I'm not sure. I think it's mostly THC. This is like 3 shots of something in here. I didn't open these because they're not mine. But so these have mostly THC. This has 30 grams of THC. That seems like a lot. This has 3 servings in it, but it has 90 grams of THC. Let me see if I can show you the breakdown. It's too bright, so that might show you that. Maybe you can see THC. There. right there. So hopefully you saw that. This will be the microscopic label for this stuff. THC, a little bit more, but it's 3 shots in this. So you just do a shot. And it's still, listen, it's still, I think if you hold it under the tongue and in the mouth before you swallow it, you might get some of the absorption under the tongue, but sometimes the shots are dependent on having the stomach acid work on activating, I believe, I have to talk to a cultivator, activating the ingredient to turn it into active THC. So putting it on the tongue might not work. I have to, again, confirm that with a cultivator. This is tincture, which you can put under the tongue. It's made to absorb under the tongue, so it theoretically should be active immediately. So all you do with this is you just, this is empty, this is a dummy, but you just fill up to the marker on the syringe, and you remember how much you used, put it under your tongue, and then you let it sit there. I think you have to tap it down because the oil, it is so oily, the tincture, that you have to tap it down and get it to the right marker on the dropper. And you use the same amount, and you experiment with the same amount every night, say 1/4 dropper or half dropper or full dropper every night, same time, same technique of holding and same seconds of holding, or 1 to 3 minutes. I think 30 seconds is fine, but why not hold it for 1 to 3 minutes? You're going to have the urge to swallow it. The longer you hold it, the more it gets absorbed through the mucus layer of the tongue straight into the bloodstream, so it doesn't have to go to the stomach. If this stuff goes into the stomach, it has to pass through the liver, and the liver has to metabolize it. So that takes a while before it goes into the stomach, gets absorbed from the stomach to the portal vein, to the the liver metabolizes it, and you have the active metabolites go all around the body from the liver, and then it hits the brain. That's very variable. It's very variable. So if you have a full stomach, if you have an empty stomach, if you have a lot of fluid, if you're dry, there's a lot of things that change it. So it's not exact. The science isn't exact, and I like to do exact science when we're dosing this stuff, so you know exactly how it'll affect you. So if you can also keep a journal, and I'll put my link to how to keep a cannabis diary. Also keep a journal of how much you ate, taking an empty stomach, what time you took it, how well you slept the next day, how groggy you were the next morning. So you're looking for side effects. I have 3 of them: dizziness, fatigue, and forgetfulness. If you have any of those symptoms, that usually means you're high. I took some once, and I think it was an RSO oil. In the morning, I found myself going up and down the steps at least 10 times, and I forgot what I was doing. And I figured, oh, okay, that was too heavy of a dose. And this was while I was in Florida, where it is also legal, but you have to have a card. And my relative gave me his sample, and that's why I tried it. Anyway, so you have to be careful that it doesn't cause side effects. If it causes a side effects, then you have to do a rescue. I like lemon, black peppercorn, or just using CBD, mostly CBD, to neutralize the THC from getting any further psychoactive. So again, tincture is nice, but you got to keep it under the tongue. These are Mindy's Kitchen gummies. I'm sorry, these are hard candies. They also have gummies, and the gummies are about the same package. They kind of look like this, except a little squarer. And this one, you have to eat the whole thing. Can't bite this in half, you'll break your teeth. The gummy you can bite in half and put under your tongue, but again, the question is whether the gummy or the candy under the tongue will get absorbed actively, or whether it has to go into the stomach to be absorbed. And I will get back to you on that, but that is an option. If you don't like syrup and you don't like tincture, I found this in the past to be, I can't keep it under my tongue for a while. I'd rather have a gummy under the tongue or other things. The candy is okay, but I don't like candy rolling around my tongue. I'd rather have a gummy melting under my tongue. And then we have CBN. I did a unboxing of this. CBN is okay. It's a byproduct of just old, it's like fine wine that's aged. So old, fine medical cannabis that's aged is extracted and put into this, and supposedly has nothing but calming for nighttime. I've tried a couple of these. Didn't have the great response, but perhaps I have to continue with my journaling to find out if I localize and not vary anything. It might work better, maybe, maybe not, but it might be something that you ask for. I'm not sure if California has what you're looking for, or Colorado has this, but it might be worth it to try. But if you're going to try it, and this is a little expensive too, CBN. If you're going to try it, don't change any other variables in sleep pattern, your dinner time, the amount of food in your stomach, the circumstances like being super tired beforehand. Just do about 5 to 7 nights straight, no variables, take a journal, keep your diary, and see how it affects you. Then there's, I mentioned gummies already. Mindy's Kitchen is a nice company, has gummies and hard candy. Then there's this thing I did a video on, unboxing. This is nasty. Sorry, Canatol, but I mean, I can usually tolerate nasal sprays, Atrovent nasal spray, nasal calm nasal spray. The problem with nasal sprays is if the vehicle that the liquid is in, it has to be palatable, but this always drops the back of the throat, and man, that was nasty. And I didn't feel anything. It didn't really change. I have to do a limited experiment on this, but it didn't really change anything as far as allergies. I didn't feel a head high, but it and it didn't really help with sleep. So anyway, and last but not least, so those are topicals, edibles, tinctures, gummies, and then the nasal spray. Then you have this. This is the typical vape. This is a vape cartridge, and I don't know how this works. Okay, so this is the thing. Okay, this is the vape itself. This is the cartridge that went in here, and you just inhale through here, and you get your hit. The hit is going to be a 1 dose of vaporized oil. The oil comes from the plant. So, and the oil is, this is indica, but it's only plant-based. I mean, sorry, it's only indica. It's not broken down to ratios. It's just indica. Indica, the species of indica, or should I say the subspecies, is the kind of medical cannabis that's grown in a very nice environment, very warm, very flourishing. Sativa is grown in a very hostile environment, harsh environment. So the plant usually is more waking versus the indica plant, which is more relaxing. So sativa for daytime, indica for nighttime. That's very, very general. There's definitely more nuances to dosing than that, but if you at least know that, it's helpful. So if you're going to do indica, this would be nice for sleep, but this makes people cough. So one of the side effects of vaping is coughing. And by the way, we're getting a lot of internet buzz that vaping is going to blow up in your mouth. You know, this is federally controlled. The stuff that the kids are tampering with, they're changing the heat element. They're trying to get into the, I guess, this component where they store the oil and refill it. You're changing a lot of product that's been researched and fine-tuned, and when you do that, you're going to have a problem with the battery. If the battery explodes, one, that's a problem. If the oil that you use is not purified, if it's not certified by whoever bought it as being legitimately from a plant or an animal, then you don't know what you're getting, and it could be more than just oil. So I'd be very careful. I do believe that the nicotine vape cartridges that the young people are using are probably, there's so many out there that, and the FDA can only control so much. Usually what happens with an over-the-counter vape is that it might or might not be considered a dietary supplement because it's hemp plant, but when it's considered a dietary supplement, then it's up to the company to be batch testing their own product. And that's like asking a kid in the house by himself, okay, don't touch my gun. Or a young couple in a house in high school by themselves, okay, don't have sex. So you have to trust that the companies will watchdog themselves, and that costs a lot to batch test versus the the Fed saying you must provide a certificate of analysis with gas chromatography to prove what's in a standard batch that we might want you to test. So the medical cannabis, at least in Illinois, and I'm pretty sure all medical cannabis in all states, have to answer to the Fed as far as what's in each of these components. Just like organics, sometimes you can get by without testing, but if you get fined, you're out of business. I've seen some organic vitamin companies not really be organic, and they went out of business. So the companies are taking a chance, but the ones that are long-lasting, that have been out there for a while, we usually have trusted amounts. So if you're going to do this vape, then you do one hit at the same time every night, same inhale, same amount of seconds that you hold the breath, and same amount of force that you're holding, and then you exhale. Now you're going to cough a little bit, I think, because this is hot. So what happens with this is that you put your mouth at this end, it draws the oil from here, the cartridge is in here. This is the battery part, I believe, and the cartridge is in here somewhere. And the oil, well, it looks like this. I don't want to break this, so that's the cartridge. And oh, okay, so that's a cartridge. It's essentially this part right here. It probably goes down to here. So that's the oil inside, and this is the battery. So when you inhale through this part, the battery components heat up the oil, and the oil vaporizes and creates essentially a steam of the product, and you inhale it into the body. When you inhale it into the lungs, again, it goes into the lungs and then gets it to the bloodstream through the lung air sacs and then straight to the body. So you bypass the liver, so you have immediate onset. But because it's immediate onset, you're going to have immediate elimination. But it'll be a couple hours, 3 hours, but it'll be within 15 minutes you get the effect. And if you're looking to get a little drowsy and relaxed because you have a little anxiousness that you're not going to fall asleep again, or if the brain's too wired because you had a really fun day and you can't get to sleep, these products will help you get to sleep. It's just you want to see how fast it works, and the vapes are the fastest. Nasal might be just as fast if you can tolerate it. Candies, the pills as we go down, and the tinctures and the syrups, a little bit on the slow side because, again, the variability of absorption is there. But all those products, if you take them at the right time at night, and I wouldn't buy all that stuff at the same time. I've accumulated all this stuff. Well, half of this stuff is not mine, but I've accumulated the other half from patients to dropping off because they hated the side effects, and that's a shame. But that's usually that would usually be the guidance of the salesperson that's supposed to say, okay, try this one thing first and come back if it doesn't work. Don't buy like 5 things at the same time. It's very tempting to go to a candy store and buy a lot of candy when your brain says, I just want one piece of candy, but I'll take everything. So that's why if you're in pain, you really should be doing your homework as far as what's on the menu, knowing what you want from the menu, and then knowing an alternative in case they don't have it when you get there. So as far as where you go, whether you decide you want to smoke the leaf, which is the cheapest, but also gives you like 400 cannabinoids, 400 different chemical components that of that 400, you might get good relief with 2 or 3 of them, but the other 398 might get you really stuck on the couch or really tired or high, paranoid. So if you can fine tune that instead of the flower, just get it down to like 1 or 2 components of CBE, CBN, THC, THCA, then you can kind of fine tune it and get your menu together as far as you want a little bit of this, a little bit of this, you want 2 of these high, you want 2 of these low. So you can dial in your ingredients a little better once you process it. But again, you pay more. The flower is the most expensive. Then comes the vape oil that you inhale. Then comes the tincture oil. Then the RSOs. There's the pasty oils that you put under the tongue. I didn't talk about that here, but see my other video on medical marijuana choices. And then the oils. There's a whole bunch of different oils, including edibles that I didn't even mention here, but that's far too long. There's also a patch that gets released and more THC, but I think they're really expensive. $16 a patch, lasts for 1 to 3 days if you can stretch it out. A little pricey for me. So these things would be the first things that I would try first, Mike. And you keep on going. You can certainly portal me if you have any questions about how to dial it even further, but you should know the difference. You should know what you're looking for, what ratios there are. Those 2 plants, indica and sativa. and know a little bit before you go shopping. So researching is always important. There's some good books out there, but hopefully this gives you a little bit of an idea how to start. I really think you can dial in medical cannabis to help with the sleep. There's so many reasons for sleep that you always gotta see your primary care doctor just to make sure it's not a obstructive sleep apnea, or it's not a parasomnia, because sometimes they do need correction. Like sleep apnea needs an obstructive mask. You fix the obstruction by forcing air in and you breathe a little easier. But short of that, unless you have a lung disease, and if you have lung disease, you shouldn't be doing this thing. If you have liver disease, you have to be careful with what you take edible, because there can be some stimulation of the cytochrome P450 pathway in the liver, and if you're on a whole bunch of medicines, it might interact. So always ask your doctor, although most of my colleague friends don't know much about the medical cannabis. So that's a shame, but it'll come around. So hopefully your dispensary will have a little bit more experience with their anecdotal stories. They can't give up medical advice, but they can give you anecdotal stories about what has helped in other clients in the past. So look out for a medical cannabis doctor that's well versed, or watch my videos. So don't forget to subscribe down below and hit the alert button. Otherwise, I'll see you at the next Minute Clinic.